here. Actually, Marty texted me and said he wouldn't be able to make it because he's working late. So we really appreciate everything Gene has done over the years for the community. So many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
The only thing that's missing on this is the fact that the barn at the Dalk Farm recognizes our basketball team. And he didn't
Yes,
do
he
that.
was, yeah,
Yeah,
really proud of that. He was very proud when he
First
did
one.
that up on the barn.
first
yeah.
one to do it.
Do you want to present that to him now?
Yeah. Hi, Lauren.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello.
You can hear us fine?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Item B, consideration discussion library site and grant opportunity. Did Amy want to speak on this?
Lauren, did you want to introduce this agenda item?
Amy can take it away.
Okay, all right, so we recently learned of a potential grant opportunity through the federal government. So needs approval by the Treasury Department that they have a timeline, it's in your agenda packet as well. Offering up potential maximum of $4.25 million for a renovation or a new build. So in order to get ready for this grant proposal, once it's approved, the library board is looking at different opportunities that would potentially work within the guidelines of the grant. The grant requires that construction be done by November 30th of 2026. So in our discussions, we came up with 2 locations that we felt would fit that timeline. The Village Hall location, as well as the Highway 39 site. There are pros and cons to both of those sites, which we realize. And we were coming to the village board just to get your input. Of course, we would need approval if we were to decide on this site. So that really pertains to you. So we need your input on that. But basically, we're looking for your help in the library board's decision-making process. And to get your feelings on either of those 2 sites.
It's just a couple of details. Application due in summer of, what, is there a date?
2024.
Hmm?
2024.
No, summer is a 90-day period of time. Is there an actual date by
No,
which
they
it's?
don't have an actual date right now, just because they're waiting for approval from the Treasury Department. So they kind of give general.
Okay, so who does this go through?
So it is through the federal government. I have a contact in Madison.
State government.
Or, I'm sorry. But the US Treasury Department has to approve it yet. So,
Okay, but it's state government approval with federal money. And there's some fault all up there. but-
okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we don't have a specific date.
We do not have a
Okay.
specific date, and thank you for the clarification.
Hopefully they'll publish it before it occurs rather than afterwards.
Right, I check daily, so.
I read your data. I just had some questions to ask. The projection on the, I guess on this site as well as the Highway 39 site, the cost of the building, is that an old assessment?
Those are old, we need to get new numbers for that, so
So
that's,
is it flexible? Like, let's say, for example, you apply and you get it and your building site is for 12,000 square feet. I think that's what it said, but you are going to change a few things.
right.
Can that happen? Is that
Right.
flexible enough?
I'm sure that is flexible depending on how much money we would get from the grant versus how much money we have, how much money the village is contributing, and how much money we're able to get from additional donations.
And then would you also include in your proposal sustaining the building, like out of the funds, how the size of your building, are you going to be able to sustain it with the funds that you receive from the village and the county to be able to maintain the size of it?
So, one of our big things right now is we'd like to have one story building so we can maintain it with the staff that we have. Of course, a standalone building, there are going to be additional costs.
Right,
With shoveling or plowing or mowing, we would obviously try to keep those things down. There are things that we can look into, like the solar panels, in order to keep our electric budget down. Those are all things that
does that have to be submitted then when you?
no,
apply?
that would not be submitted for.
Okay, so I guess I don't know a lot about the grant, so I just was wondering how, how flexible they were on if there were changes going to be made and if the costs were updated, so we know exactly. So where would we have to go to get actual projects costs? Does that have to be sent into the application?
So no, they said that the engineering study does not have to be done for the application. So, yeah, so that would be done afterwards.
Okay,
We know a lot about construction costs because the school district is building right now. And they let their contract in October of last year.
mhm.
And it's right around $450 a square foot.
Okay, what was our original, do you remember what? the-
Yeah, and here it's,
I don't remember reading it.
125.
125.
Yeah.
and the one of 19 comes in at 280 or something like that, doesn't it?
Okay. Still, yeah,
288, 268. But that's 5 years ago.
right.
Right.
So the last few years have been a lot of pressure on construction. That's why I'm not saying it's going to double, but it's in that vicinity.
Okay.
And the way you solve that problem is by diminishing the size of the building.
No, I know we're in bind. I know with the library issue, and I feel for the library struggling. What I can't get through is having two equally bad choices to make a decision. Is that a good decision? Because we had so much, negativity about either of those two decisions. And so does that make taking two locations that were not popular and then putting it in? I suppose that isn't part of, the application process where you put that in. Is that where we go from here? I know that you're stuck in a corner, there's nowhere else to go. I understand that.
There is a route to go.
Pardon me?
There is a route to go. And
Okay,
that's to make an offer on the township building.
this one here,
Yeah,
but is it right size?
it's a 13,000 square feet site.
This right here, right in town, that's what you're
Right,
talking.
right.
Okay,
And it has the advantage of not having any driveway, not having any sewer and water hookup, all these other sites around here that we've talked about. Well, we've seen all the detail about the village hall, namely that this building has a significant amount of infrastructure that's got to be replaced,
Right.
and they're talking millions to do that.
mhm,
And whereas if we built down there, I'm not saying it's a perfect site, Peg. I mean, all these
Here.
sites have pluses and
Okay.
minuses, right?
right.
But one of the pluses of the township site is you hook up sewer and water and you don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to accommodate, because you can hook up the sewer. You don't have to have that big container underneath your parking lot to take stormwater.
Mhm,
That's referenced in here.
mhm,
SWDP is stormwater displacement, because the water goes downhill to your backyard. So you gotta have a holding tank at the top on this plan for the west side.
right.
And then you gotta have a driveway, and I don't think we have the easements on that yet. Anyway, I just think that, this is just me. I think a more logical route is to accelerate the discussion, the good discussion these guys have already started with the township. And that basically means making them an offer. And an offer says, we're willing to buy this for this amount, and here are the known contingencies. And they come back at it and say, we don't like your offer, but they counter with that. So then you end up with a document that meets the definition of your concern, which is timing. Now, these days, buildings go up pretty fast.
Mhm.
My house went up, we started putting the walls up on May 12th and everything was done by the end of June. I don't mean the whole inside was done, but the structure itself was done. And that used to be a process that took 4 or 5 months. But now the way they build them off-site. You know, they built the buildings, the whole thing, the basic structure was up in 3 days. Comes on a truck, you know, crane, drop it in place, screw the bolts in, screw the next one in, boom, boom, boom. So that we can build 66,000 square feet in 14 months. We can certainly build in that 5,000 square feet range in 6 months. That, in other words, we can meet that deadline. If we can't meet the deadline, I wouldn't do it, you know, but I think
So I
you
think
plan to meet the
question of
deadline.
whether we can really meet the deadline, because we have a letter out to the Swiss church and the town right now. I went to the town board meeting. They don't seem to be anywhere near making this decision. I understand put an offer in, but we're also talking about acquiring a part of the Swiss church land, which is next door. And the only response that I've gotten from them so far is to say, we will take it to the consistory and eventually take it to the congregation for a vote. So-
Are they aware of the timeline you're working?
Well, no, we submitted the letter
Oh.
for this grant meeting about it. This is a very recent grant. So, but neither seem, so we have a lot of coordination to do, even to get this site to be ready to demolish something and build on it.
Is
by
it,
2026.
is it flexible enough to say, okay, you know, we got this amount of money, but we can't afford this square footage? So is that flexible, or do you have to go exactly what, you know, what you're proposing?
Oh,
Like,
no. No, we don't have to.
You don't have to
We're not
submit that,
stuck
that's
to-
right.
We're not stuck to 12,000 square feet. Yeah, we're not stuck to any of them.
But we're in the 6th range.
So with the grant, you know, this is why we're pursuing the grant, so we can get a library the size we need. Right now, we just had a program last week, we almost exceeded the capacity of the community room for programming. I've got tutoring going on in my office 3 to 5 times a week. I just had somebody in my office doing a Zoom meeting because there's nowhere else to do it and she's in a pinch. So, I mean, to argue that we need a bigger library is very evident from just being in there every day.
Well, I'm sort of in your part. I know that you had on your chart that the 39 location, and again, I know I live there, but, and I know people might think that I have personal, you know, reason for that, but I would much rather have a library up there than a business, so it's not that at all. What I'm concerned about is that the kids, yeah, they have access, but I think they have, if you're working with library programs, I think they have more opportunity in the village to do things than they are out on 39 and perhaps running up on the street. I mean, it is a very hard decision, and I've
It
thought
is
about
a
it
very hard decision.
over and over and over again. Is it at all possible to table this and have you go forward with the township and get that?
I have a
those ducks in a
suggestion
row?
about
What's
Then if the grant opens, I have to have it in like a month's time. I mean, I have to have that proposal in.
You just said you don't know what the date is.
I don't know for sure what the date is, but they said once it opens, that the turnover time, the window for the grant opening is not going to be big. Can I have some of the library board? I mean,
Shelley would like to. speak.
I did sign up to speak, but I just want to clarify that this is general. This grant is open. They don't need any site information or engineering data or anything. They want to know, are you building a new building or are you renovating an existing building?
You don't have to show location?
Nothing. So this is what we're asking, I think, if I can just summarize, is that this is an existing building. This is a location that we've looked at. We've looked at the West Side site. Those would be doable within the 2026 timeframe. We don't know when the town of New Glarus is going to move and if they'd even that lot would be available or saleable to us. So that's how we crunched through which sites would be best, right? That would fit this 2026 timeframe. But really, we don't need to answer the hard questions tonight. It's just, where is your support lying? To stay in this location or to build a new building? Is that fair? Is that simplified? I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in. Go ahead,
Linda?
And just understand, when we talk about using this building, the library wants to use the whole building, which would mean that the village would have to, education officers would have to find a new location. So you have to consider that piece of it too. Is that what you as the village board would be in favor of doing? Additional costs and having to find a place for that too. But that's a question.
Lauren, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that, this is really to identify what we want to apply for the grant, so we can still explore the town, lot as an option. It's just, we think it's not the best option for the grant. So we really wanted to go down that piece. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you. Greg, would you like to speak at this time, please?
Yeah, I guess at this point, I just have a couple of questions, Roger. First amongst those, is there any clear expectation of what amount of square footage you're looking for?
The space needs studies said 11,000 square feet at the minimum. I feel as though the library board would like 12,000 is what they would like, or at least expandable to 12,000 at some point if we don't have money to fill 12,000 right now. So.
Okay, so when I do a little quick math in my head, you've got $1 million of fundraising, you've got $1 million pledge from the village, you've got up to, as I understand, 4.25. If you get the maximum grant amount, that's 6.25. 6.25, if it was just a site that was ready to go, barely gets you to 12,000 at 450 a square foot. But of course, that's not where we stand. The big problem last time around, and there's been a lot of turnover, there's been almost complete turnover in the village board since the last time this was really seriously hashed out. There's been substantial majority turnover in the library board. There's been substantial turnover in the community itself. So at this point in time, it may well be forgotten that the major obstacle that was encountered back then wasn't building costs so much as it was operational costs. And there was no way to meet the operational cost of that facility without cutting into core services like protective services, roads, garbage pickup, et cetera, et cetera. And since then, things have only gotten more expensive, a lot more expensive. I think your limitation runs not so much with the size of what you can build as with what size of this village can afford to both operate and long-term maintain. I would ask the village board, I'm here tonight specifically because this was marked as a recommendation, which means that, possibly there could be a motion, there could be a vote. Through no fault of anybody's here, this is a rush timeframe. And with all the turnover that there's been on both boards, with all the turnover that there's been in the community, I would respectfully ask the village board not to make any motions or vote on motions tonight from the simple perspective that I think you need much more in the way of community input, so on and so forth, before moving forward with such a major decision that we may not even be able to operate at the building.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Linda?
We're not here to ask the village board to vote on anything, to approve any building, any operating. We only would like feedback as to what you would like to see as a possible site. We are only trying to write this grant to get more money to fund the building of this library. If we are to approve to the grant, we're going to have to go back to square one and still continue to work on this. But right now, tonight, we're not asking for a vote, we're only asking for your feedback. Then we know where we're gonna go to write the grant when it comes available to us. We still have a lot of footwork to do once we apply for the grant. And only if we're approved for the grant. Then we can start talking about building costs, operating costs, building size. Then we'll delve into those things. We just want to have the opportunity to write this grant.
Here's what I want to do. I mean, again, after thinking through this, I would like to table this and have you reach out as quickly as possible to the township and see at the next meeting if we could come back with some more data. Look this over a little more, look up flexible funding a little more. I know they're offering 170 million in those. And just have a little more to deal with. Again, and grant you that opportunity.
So can I just say that, I think next Wednesday is town board meeting, are too late to get on the agenda. No decisions are going to be made, then that puts us further back on the village board agenda. The grant may open and we don't have an opportunity to write for it. We just want to write for a grant to help fund this project. Not to say that we'd even get it, it's just an opportunity for us to get more money to help us along.
I'm confused between your statement about writing the grant and the one that comes here from Ms. Trump, and that is we don't have to name a site. I must have misunderstood something.
No, we don't. We just have to say, is it renovating an existing building or building a new building?
So you
That's
can
what
say
we have
that,
to say.
that way, and the answer to that is easy. Building a new building. I mean, this renovation stuff is a nightmare. I'm working on one right now that is going well because we've got it under control and it doesn't require a lot of work. I'm looking at another one in town, which is a nightmare. I mean, it's just hard to conceive of how that thing is anything other than a tear down. And this building here, as soon as you touch one piece of it, you have to do all the rest because you got to bring it up to code. And that's the problem with municipal buildings and commercial buildings is the codes have moved on and this building stays static. So once you start, you know, it's all in, you got to start the whole thing. So I think if we don't have to name a site, then you'd find me in the camp that says, let's make an offer. And that means at their end, they got to start thinking about it too. Township. And one of the contingencies would be, we need some amount of space. I don't know whether it's 10 feet or 100 feet from the church. That's a contingency. You put that in there. We offer to pay for this, subject to our ability to get this land over here, subject to when we do our field testing for the ground that we can put in a proper foundation to support a library. Library foundations are different than almost everything else. If you throw in, they're going to want a contingency that says we gotta have 6 months before we close and another 3 months after that to move. You know, they're going to have a series of things too. But at least we have the framework for a decision by starting the business of making an offer. Anything other than that is discussion, fun, but not effective.
So let me just say that, ask, so I can get my head in this. You don't have to name a site. So let's say you get the funding, then we could decide on a site after that.
So I could.
We'll know
That has to be
before
built
that.
by
So.
the deadline on the
It
grant.
has to be built
And
by-
right now they're saying that deadline is 2026. So if the town is not moved out of that location and we would have the money, they wouldn't give it to us if we can't complete our project by 2026.
But we wouldn't take it.
Then we,
I just think the atmosphere is appropriate at this point. We've got a lot to do. We've been waiting a long time. They bought some land. The church can always use some less land to mow. You know, we need some for construction and maintenance and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's a perfect storm, but it's certainly better than it's been in a long time. Many thanks to you and the people you work with for getting this thing on the table where we can all start making decisions.
So new building or renovation? That's all they need to know.
No,
New.
So one concern I have is if we would give them this building, then we've got to go and either find a building or we've got to build the building. And we've already given the library $1 million. You know, that we will, it's gonna cost us to build a new building.
big tip. That's a
So
great
I
point.
think if they could get 4.2 million to build a new facility, I think would be better than us getting booted out of here and us having to come up with how many millions to build a new building for ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
Basically, end up with 2 new buildings. The amount of work that's gonna be done here, if you try and renovate this, it's not gonna look the same. Inside or outside.
All right, so are we just talking about new building?
For the library,
Yeah,
I think so.
tonight, right now.
Yeah.
That's all they need to know.
Yep.
Yep.
Then I move that we support a new building.
Okay,
So we just move,
Second.
what we're gonna do is move forward to have you go ahead and pursue the application, not knowing exactly where the.
All we're saying is my motion is just saying the village board supports, our preference is new building.
So Chuck, I'm just to repeat it back to you and make sure this is what you want to say. Motion by Chuck Phillipson to support a new building for the library, second by Larry.
Right, correct.
okay,
You tend to boil the flowers off of it.
okay.
Get straight to the
That's
point.
good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna recuse myself just because it's next to my property and I don't wanna,
I'm not in the backyard.
yeah.
Opposed?
Abstain.
You're abstaining too, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2.
Well, the people abstaining, I believe by Robert's rules, then their votes count with the majority. You can look it up.
Okay. Well, on to the next item. Item C, consideration discussion 2024 bank loan. Okay. So. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you again.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item C, consideration discussion 2024 bank loan.
Yeah, I can take this one. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So in the 2024 CIP, we have 4 projects this year. One of those is obviously the water reservoir, so that's a separate loan. But the other 3 projects are the Candy Cane Park Inclusive Playground, the water utility truck that you discussed at the last meeting, and then Vets Park ball field fencing. So that's a total of $153,879 to borrow this year. This is obviously a smaller borrow. I reached out to several local banks to get interest rates. And the lowest interest rate I could get was Lake Ridge Bank at 4.937% with a $350 fee. Not an amazing rate, but unfortunately, 2 of the banks I reached out to were not willing to do a loan that small for 10 years. If the board would like, we could move forward with the Lake Ridge Bank loan at 4.937% for 10-year to fund these capital projects.
Make a motion to move forward with a 10-year loan, bank loan from Lake Ridge, at 4.937%.
I'll second it.
Amendment, Lauren, do you happen to know you have a right of prepayment without penalty at any time?
Yes, I made sure of that, as well as a couple other items like no
Okay.
accelerator clause and a couple other things we usually ask for.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, item B, consideration discussion facade improvement grant guideline amendment. That's on page 19.
Yep.
Lauren?
So couple minor amendments to the facade improvement grant program. This was reviewed by the Community Development Authority and recommended for approval. So the first major amendment states that in-home businesses are not eligible for this program. We had an applicant come that had an in-home business, and there was a lot of confusion and kind of discussion around that at the meeting. And that applicant ended up withdrawing their application, but we thought it would be good to clarify in the guidelines that in-home businesses are not eligible. I also added some more verbiage on the type of improvements that are allowed. And so that last line in the applicant eligibility requirements talks about improvements should be visible from and or adjacent to public right-of-way. Really, the intent of this program is to fund, visible exterior walls of, our downtown businesses. And, some projects are going to be full, a full painting, and some of that's not going to be visible. But as long as a majority of the improvements are, I think that's within the intent of the program. And then the last revision is on page 21 under program administration, and that has to do with the Swiss Design Review Committee. After talking with that group, they thought it would be, nice if any improvements that were approved for this grant also went through them to ensure that they meet Swiss design. I think that makes sense because as a village, we don't want to fund improvements to a building that aren't meeting our Swiss design guidelines. And some projects that, if they're just painting, for example, they wouldn't have to go through Swiss design review, but it might be nice to have that group review that and make sure, that they're meeting those kind of design requirements and that we're keeping our downtown Swissy as much as possible. So those are the three revisions, and happy to answer questions.
Any questions from the committee? No questions about this change in the facade improvement grant program?
I think we learn as we go, the things that trip up. For example, the particular private homeowner. So we continue to fine tune that program. So,
Absolutely.
are we a motion?
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes in the facade.
Second. Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item E, consideration discussion resolution 24-06, appointing limited term employee public works labor. It's on page 22. Curl is his name, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have a resolution in front of us. This is to fill that second LT position that's working with Joe's crew this year for a public works laborer. Otto Curl is the person that has been selected. He starts at $15 an hour and his term would start on May 1st. We budgeted 330 hours for him, and staff would ensure that that is kept at or below 330 hours.
And this has been vetted by the personnel committee.
Lauren, I don't believe so. This didn't go to personnel and finance, correct?
No, usually for appointments, we've been skipping personnel and finance.
Well, then why do we have a personnel committee?
Cause that committee is, I think, more focused on like personnel policies.
Those
and-
guys. We were with these guys.
Whatever.
I'm happy to take any future appointments to that committee if the board wishes.
Doing fine.
I think we're fine.
Certainly
Does
doesn't.
anybody want any info about Otto?
Sure.
I can give you a little background. So Otto, originates from Black Earth. He was a full-time mechanic in the military, National Guard. He retired out of that. My experience was with him is my military unit. I wanted to, when I got into it, I wanted to be deployable in under 24 hours. My unit was far from that. And within 6 months, my unit was on the list. I was deployable in 24 hours. He made that happen. I created him as my mechanic for my fleet. And Otto has a pretty good background with agriculture. He has a great background with construction, that kind of stuff. So
Joe, did you reach out to him to apply or did he just see it and apply?
he actually talked to me about it because Sammy was not coming back, and he was like, you know, he'd be very interested in doing that. He's retired. He's somewhat retired, and he's like, that would be a really good thing for me to just have a steady, like, I can work a certain amount of hours up until I'm done. And
Do you see that as a recurring employment for him in the village or as a one-time thing or?
no, I think it could be, unless he decides that he's just gonna retire completely.
He also has a CDL, correct, Joe?
Yep, he does. He has a CDL, full combination, Class A. So like one of the things we're gonna do is work on that, park. So it'd be a very good thing. He could drive truck, haul and gravel, that kind of stuff. So it'd be perfect for us.
He sounds like a good match.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve Carl's limited term employment.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, going down to item 8, personnel and finance, consideration, discussion, huh? Oh, so, okay, I guess we got an update in Public Works and Public Safety Department between Jeff and Joe.
So just a little FYI, nothing to be done, but, today in the new PD, there was 5 roof leaks. We went up on the roof, we can't see anything, it's a rubber roof, it's a rubber flat roof. And the issue stands of, it is literally coming down in like multiple holes. So that is the old structure underneath that rubber roof. And it is coming down through holes that used to hold the old ceiling up that they destructed. And we've had leaks in there before.
What building are we in?
We're talking about the new PD.
Yes.
And the problem of this is we've had, multiple times, people come in and fix the roof. And it's not always the same spot leaking. It's always in a different spot, always in a different spot. And today Jeff and I had to put 5 different pails or baskets up just to collect the water. It's ruining the ceiling tiles. It's falling on
Equipment.
yes, and it's bad. Today, we went up there, we took rooms up on top. We tried to sweep off as much water as we could. When we got up on the roof, we noticed that the roof was really spongy. As in, like, Jeff would walk towards me and just feel it doing this number. It's not something that, rubber roofing is not something that I'm very good at, but that's a serious problem. And I think we need to start getting companies in here, start looking at that.
2 questions, Joe. Is it at the joint, the the membership of the old building and new building, or is it in the new
It's,
as well?
what we've seen, it's been at the joint, it's been around, different things coming through the roof, it's in the flat part of the roof. It's, yeah, it's been all over.
And do we have justifiable insurance claim? Would that be a possibility?
And aside from insurance.
We have
so
building insurance.
Was this not part of the $650,000 investment we made in the
No,
police department?
no, everything was internal.
So it's not, there was no structural survey made when we invested that $650,000 in the new.
I think at the time I thought
department. Nobody, no engineering. I'm just asking, I'm just asking. So when we put that money into the police department, there was no foresight to say, let's check the roof. Plain and simple.
I think they looked at it at that time, from what I can recall, because you guys put a new roof on the village hall. You never included the police department in that.
Well, yes, but that's a separate, we're talking a shingle roof on the village hall.
But all those shingles all got pushed on our roof. So it's a rubberized roof, so I think that's why we're getting all the leaks now. All the sharp shingles, the nails, everything, you know, is hit that, and that's what's created the big problem.
Okay.
Because that's when the leaks started, after that roof was redone.
But this has been going on for a while.
Ever since it happened.
Ever since,
And
we get
this is
periodical
the
ones.
first that we've been notified.
Well, it's been like a minor leak. And it's been fixed. And today it was like somebody opened it up.
Finger in the dike thing, right?
Yeah.
I think two things, Joey,
Been nice to know.
seek out insurance for information and then get some people in here to, because I mean, this needs to be expedited, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know, I haven't been here long enough, but I don't even know the last time that they probably broke that. And if it's a roof on any commercial building, I know that there's usually a certain amount of maintenance that has to be done on it. That's why you see them at the schools, on top of school roofs. You see them on top of flat roofs all the time. But, who knows the last time that roof was even probably looked at.
Yeah, it'd be very unlikely to have insurance coverage for
Right.
a leaking
But
roof.
you can,
It's almost
reach out.
impossible.
you can reach out.
Yeah, Kelsey and I already today sat down on her computer, got some names of people from Monroe, Madison, and whatever that are flat roof rubber companies that would be calling to get them here as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Just have a look at it.
So Kelsey, do you know, do we have any money in our building sinking fund?
We do, we have just over $40,000, if I remember correctly. We did a lot, 3,000 of that to put blinds in the building this year. But I don't know how much rubber roofs cost, so. What I can say on the finance side, we ran into a similar situation in terms of sinking fund money where those tires had to be replaced in a public works truck. And we cannot take action on this tonight, but Joe was able to go ahead and replace those tires, and then we brought it to the board to decide how we were gonna pay for it, because it was a situation where we had to do it. And that is an option on the next board meeting. If Joe's able to get people out here to look at this roof, they can give us quotes and figure out what we need to do. And then at the next board meeting, it can become an agenda item where we can decide if we need a new roof, who we're gonna have do it and how we're gonna pay for it, so.
Making sure, Joe, I'm just thinking here, when they look at that roof itself, you're gonna have to look at that support wall. Because you said you were walking and it was kind of mushy. If that support wall has to be
I don't think it's a
reinforced.
support wall, it's probably
The roof
roof-
itself?
the roof
But if
itself.
that, because of the changes that have been made, you know, that roof may have, or that wall may have ebbed and flowed a little in movement and changed the, you know, I mean, I guess I would look at it in totality without, not just the roof. See what else structurally.
When did this roof get repaired? When was that?
Well,
I believe I looked it up for one of the churches, and I think it was Swiss Church that asked, and I thought it was 2018, somewhere around
Sounds
there.
about right.
Yeah, I think it was right around 2018.
I think, because I was here and Town and Country put the bids out and Drake was here,
In 2019, because it was before COVID.
yes. This is about that garage there.
Yeah, the whole PD is about the roof.
The garage isn't leaking, it's actually old.
But that's the angle, so then it runs off. The other part is just like flat squares, which is sitting out there.
I don't know what section I'm looking at here. How big? Yeah. I'm gonna say probably 60 by 40. 16? 60. 60. I haven't been out there, I haven't really looked at it, I was just trying to figure out if we can eliminate the flat roof altogether, kind of blend it in with the rest of the building. The only problem is when you get into, like the old wall structure.
Did he
It's able
say
to
that
handle
that
that
leaked
much more
today?
waste and, trusses, you're talking a whole.
During this
engineering
entire
reinforcement.
rain period,
Yep.
it wasn't just happened.
Yeah. I would say let's get a couple of companies.
Today was
One of them.
unmanageable.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing that could comes from a flat roof. And so just trying to eliminate that flat roof in the first place would be more ideal option, but it sounds like we start doing that option here. So I just don't pop up. So, okay. Is it possible to just raise it up slightly? You know, angle that water off? I don't know how they do that kind of stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It is, there's spots in it that are, you can actually see it where the water's holding. Right. The only way that water comes off of there is when the sun comes up. Yeah. And it bakes it up. There's no way that water can get off. So.
Has there been a lot of damage to the police department itself? Floor,
I
wall?
caught it early this morning when I was just walking through and then I went and searched all the rooms and then periodically we go again. And then when Joe came over the one time, we had 3 leaks and then we found another one and then another one started. I think what's happening is there's holes up in there and it's coming in and it's just traveling over the whole top of the PD. And then it's finally finding a hole in that other wall or the other roof part where the old ceiling tile hangers would go up and now it's running down. So I don't know how much water stuff there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Joel. $500 buckets.
Yeah. No, it's not a trash can.
That's cheaper than. Okay, now we're on personnel finance, consideration, discussion, police department staffing. It's on 23. Who wants to speak on this?
Lauren, you can jump into, we discussed this at the Personnel and Finance Committee before the meeting tonight, and they did recommend approval to move forward with, giving Chief Sturdivant 30 hours each month. That would be May, June, and July of this year due to staffing issues. Lauren, if you wanna fill in any gaps there, that'd be great.
Yeah, so obviously we're down an officer, which is unfortunate. Just want to point out that we save about $9,000 a month with this vacancy, and the chief covering 30 hours is approximately $2,000 per month. So we definitely have some wiggle room for him to fill these shifts.
Well, we discussed at the subcommittee level that we really don't have an option. You know, we just have to.
The only thing I would add too, just so the other board members here, we're actually short 2 positions right now until we get the new hire trained.
Yeah.
The other officer resigned, and other issues. So till we get this one trained, we're still down 320 hours we're trying to fill each month. And the guys still want vacation, still want, holidays or vacation, sick time, things like that. And when they want to take off, it's usually weekends that we're coming in. So. That's.
You want a motion?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Second. We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. President's report, consideration, discussion, confirmation of open book and board of review meeting dates. You can.
Yeah, I can take this one. This is really just a formality. We have scheduled our open book and board review for the village this year. It's a maintenance year. So we'll be doing a reval like last year. The dates we have slotted with accurate assessors are, open book on May 8th. And they will be here in person for 2 hours and then also obviously available prior to that for their phone appointments. And then board of review, and this is important for all of you to know because you're required to be there. You are the board of review. Except for Chuck, is May 30th from 5 to 8 p.m. So obviously I will make sure you are well aware prior to that, but I really just need formal confirmation from the board that that is okay to move forward with those dates. And that keeps us in the 45-day window that we're supposed to be in.
And then with Chuck leaving, do we have enough license or whatever certified for BLR?
So that's actually a yearly thing. So, yeah, so, I'll be emailing the board again to see who wants to volunteer to take the training. We're only required to have one person, but I really prefer to have at least two in case somebody has to, stay or cannot be here. So I'll be emailing that out.
You know, actually put it up one.
You want to say something, Joe?
I would personally like to thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
We miss you. I'm gonna miss you.
The nice thing about it, Chuck, he only lives a block away. So we can always reconvene our meetings over there.
Yeah, on the front porch.
Joe, did you say I'm gonna miss you or I made a mistake?
No, I mean,
Oh, after you said that, I thought you said I made a
he's
mistake.
always been there at parks, he's always been there when we're doing public work stuff. He
I'll
talks
still
to
be
me,
here, Joe.
he comes in there, he talks to me all the time.
He's
stuff
still
like
in
that.
the room.
Still gonna do that.
Well, that's, I don't, but I personally want to say thank you.
We need a motion for the
Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
please,
Motion.
for the board review,
I'll make a
board of
motion that
review of
we
the book. Dates.
for those dates.
sustain those dates that are continuing. with
Eight
the-
and what?
8th and 30th. You guys really just need to know
Third.
board wise for the 30th.
So move.
You can second.
Oh, second.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hey Chuck, I want to talk to you before you leave.
How about a motion to thanks, Chuck?
Okay. How are we gonna do this? You make it.
Well, the village board appreciates all the work that he's put in over the years and his sense of humor and his constant focus on reality, which we don't always like, but
Is this a formal motion or just a proclamation?
proclamation. that's
Okay,
it.
thanks.
Young ones.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No motion.
Hopefully they wait.
Not recording this.
Filing that meeting. Laura, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you for letting me participate via Zoom. I appreciate it.
Okay,
you, Laura.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night. See you
You too.
tomorrow.
And then last
Guys, say.
we changed it around to be able to try to sort it out.